Everyone. I just got it like a day or two ago, so.
Well, your adventure has just begun.
I know it.
All right, it's 8 o'clock, so we'll start with our chant. And then since Cindy hasn't arrived, I'll read a poem and we can start with that. But we'll start with just chanting Om. It's said of Om that it is pure consciousness in the form of sound. Well, there's Cindy Craven. Hello, Cindy.
Hey, everybody.
Oh.
Hey.
So now we are 7. Just like the dwarfs. So you said you had a poem or two, Cindy. Do you want to start?
Okay.
Your sound is off. I see you.
I know. Is it on there? Is it on now?
It's on now. Ah, and there's Catherine.
Hi.
Hey, Kat.
Hey, how are
Good
y'all?
evening, Catherine.
Good evening.
Let me seal. Yeah. This is one that came up for me when I just popped open the book this morning, and it's one that I have come across quite a few times, and I really like it a lot, but it's really short, but it's really thought-provoking, I think. It is for me anyway. So I will read it, and let me see who it is. It is... Oh, it's St. John of the Cross. Heavy stuff here. It's called, I Am What Is Loved. I said to God, "What are you?" And he replied, I am what is loved. I am not what should be loved. For how cruel that would then be for my bride. I'll read it again.
Mm-hmm.
I said to God, "What are you?" And he replied, I am what is loved. I am not what should be loved. For how cruel that would then be for my bride. I really love he replied, I am what is loved. It's when it goes past that I start thinking about it and trying to analyze it, and not analyze it, but apply it, I think, to something that is understandable for me. But I think I know what it's saying here, but one of the questions that I had the first time this one jumped out at me was, I am what is loved. God said, I am what is loved. And if God is what is loved, then what is not loved? if everything is God.
Well, I think the key words are should be.
Yes, yes.
The minute we get into shoulds, then I think that's where it tracks to the cruelty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yes, definitely.
And my bride is whoever loves God.
Yeah.
That's the way it's thought of in the Catholic Church.
Right. I love that coming from a saint from from the Catholic tradition,
Mhm.
because
Does anyone else have any idea what that is saying? What did it give rise to in you?
I think I don't know if what I'm thinking or wondering is, does he mean about something that arises spontaneously versus you're forcing yourself to have that feeling of love, or is it something that arises spontaneously? Sometimes like you see a beautiful flower or some, and then it just brings that feeling in you, whereas sometimes you have to kind of talk yourself into loving something.
We can't do it, can we? Therein lies the cruelty.
Yeah.
That's how I hear it. If there's a should, then if God says you should do something, then that doesn't work.
but isn't that one of the commandments,
What's that?
to love God?
But it doesn't say should.
No, but at least the church refers to it as a commandment. You are commanded to do those things that are listed. That sounds like a should to me.
Thou shalt love thy God with all thy heart and
Heart.
all thy mind and all thy strength.
Right.
That's
I feel
but
so strongly.
we need to remember that is from the Old Testament. That is not something that Christ said. Christ said that's the old covenant. And I bring you something new. I bring you the covenant of love and unconditional love. The Old Testament is full of those rules, those shoulds. I mean, it's just chock full of them. Deuteronomy will just make your eyes spin, make your eyes roll back in your head. I believe the number is 613. Shoulds and shouldn'ts.
Father Shankara, if we put I am what is unconditional love, I am not what is conditional love, for how cool would that be for my bride? Would that be representing the meaning of it?
That's how I hear it. The minute we put a should, then somehow if you don't do it, you're not measuring up. How cruel. I can see why you find that so provocative, Cindy. It is very provocative.
Well, I know what you're saying about the commandments are Old Testament. They are. But they seem to be something that a lot of people who say that they're Christian find foundational to their religion. I am not even almost a Bible scholar, but I know people who are. And I was reading something interesting from Galatians. Is that how you say that?
Mm-hmm.
About Christ saying, because someone was asking about it, that non-Jews are not required to follow the law, the old ways, all the 606 million things that were said in the Old Testament, that the new covenant was this addition for Jews. It was this addition to, the thou shalt, I want you to love each other and as I love you. But that for everyone else, that was really it. That was the one, that new commandment was the one commandment, is what it seemed to be saying.
Mm-hmm.
Any Bible people, does that sound at all like anything you've heard before or heard of? Or Laurie's looking like she's thinking.
Well, Shankar, getting just kind of going back a little bit, I do believe that Christ said something like, love the Lord your God with all your heart and mind and soul and strength or whatever, and your neighbor is yourself, and that all of the law depended on or hung on that or something like that. I think that's kind of coming to my memory, but so
You're right, he did say that, Lord, but he did not say should.
Right. Okay.
It was an invitation, not a commandment.
Okay. Yeah.
Christ was all about invitation. That's how I hear him anyway.
Yeah.
And if you read the Sermon on the Mount, there are no shoulds. And thank you for chiming in. Cindy, did you have another poem?
What, Laurie or somebody?
I'll add something else. I'm not quite sure what Kat had said, but and I'm not sure if somebody else has said this, but it just seems to me that that God doesn't want his bride to feel like she should love him, but she should love him or her. That she should love God. Yeah. And I guess that has been brought up too. So.
Well, Kat substituted unconditional love and conditional love for the phrases that are in the poem. And I thought that was very good.
To me, it brings into mind a couple of things. One yardstick to measure unconditional love. I think we discussed some of this in the previous classes, is the love of a mother for a child or a parent for a child. And the other thing that comes to my mind is when Sri Ramakrishna told one of the devotees who said, I don't know, I cannot love God. And he said, what do you love? And the man said, I think his sheep or lamb or something.
Goat.
And he said, then love that. And the devotee followed the instructions and succeeded in loving God.
Well, succeeded in finding this self in the object of his love. Yajnavalkya in the Great Forest Upanishad says it is not for the sake of the husband that the wife loves the husband. It is for the sake of the self. And it is not for the sake of the wife that the husband loves the wife, but for the sake of the self. And that I think very much applies to this poem that Cindy read. I am what is loved, not what should be loved.
I think the first time I read it, I knew that it was poking at me, but I didn't stop long enough.
Mm.
And then when I would see it again, I would think, wow, there's so much in this. And I still feel that way about it. I do have another one, and it's not the one that I had. I don't know where that one is. My marker's gone, but this feels a little related to the one I just read, although this one is from Kabir,
Aha.
and it's called It Stops Working.
Know what page that's on, Cindy?
In the book, it's 238.
Okay. I can ask that question now.
Oh, good. You have your book. Yay.
Thank you.
Okay. Look what happens to the scale when love holds it. It stops working. I'll read it again. Look what happens to the scale when love holds it. It stops working.
Oh man, that is gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Anybody got an interpretation for what it means when Kabir says it stops working?
I'm guessing he's talking about you're not kind of swayed by this and that. You're centered. Because when the scale doesn't move, it's centered. So kind of like the sthita prajna.
No,
Yeah.
that isn't how I read it, Swayam.
Oh.
It's just when we're in the grip of love, we don't weigh things. What happens to the scale when love holds it? It's in the grip of love. It stops working. It stops weighing things.
And weighing is always comparing.
Yes.
Here to what's here, and
June is nodding. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Swayam, I said no. I shouldn't have said no. That doesn't. It doesn't track there for me. So I shouldn't have said no. It just doesn't track to centering for me.
Yeah.
If that's how you hear it, then wonderful.
Right. And I think maybe what I meant to say was that you're not swayed by what Cindy just said. I mean, you're not comparing but it came out in a different way. But, yeah.
That's why after I thought about it, I thought, you shouldn't have said no. I shouldn't have said no.
this really is about what arises for us, and one arising leads to another and to another. So, there are no wrong answers here. It's hard to put into words what some of these really do to us. We can sit here and try to analyze them and express something deeper, and it's useful, and I enjoy it, but it's hard. to
Yeah.
do.
I actually found a poem about poem. It kind of talks to what you just said, Cindy. If I can do that now, if you're ready to move on.
Sure.
This is actually a poem by, I found two poems on poems. The first one is by Tukaram on page 334 in my ebook version. And it goes like this. A good poem, the title is A Good Poem. A good poem is like finding a hole in the palace wall. A good poem is like finding a hole in the palace wall. Never know what you might see.
Yeah.
That's our Tukaram, always being provocative.
Right.
I like that.
And the other one on poem that I found was Rumi on page 88. So let me get to that page. Sorry, this is taking long because I don't know the e-version. How do I go without clicking through pages to
Oh, you
88?
go to the table of contents,
Uh-huh,
click on Rumi.
I did,
Oh, you did that. All right.
right. But then it started with page 60 and I have to click through to get to 88.
The last one.
It's the
Okay.
last one. All right.
Well, yeah, I'm still getting there. If somebody else got it and you want to read, I'm still on 80. This is the benefit of a paper book. You can just kind of flip it to the right page. This is, sorry, it's taking long.
No problem.
86, 87, 88. Okay. Bloodsuckers from Hell. That's the title of the poem.
Sounds like a band name, a rock band. Sorry.
Rumi speaking to a crowd muses, watch out for those bloodsuckers from hell, cause they're everywhere. And the crowd wisely retorts, that sounds serious. What do they look like? Any hints? Are they usually disguised? Rumi again, yes, usually they are awful tricky. How then to detect them? Well, I have noticed their eyes will narrow and their faces begin to squint like prunes if they hear a good poetry.
That is so true.
It is so true.
Or good music or good art or of any kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I just looked like a prune a minute ago.
I do that all the time. That was funny. And
June, have you discovered a favorite poem in this book that you would like to have read,
I
or that you would like to read yourself?
cannot read it. I can't see that well.
Yes? Someone can read it for you,
I
though.
forgot to ask my daughter to tell me what page it's on. But if I hold the book up, can you see the page number down at the
Maybe.
bottom?
Maybe.
You need to lift it up higher, I think, June.
There you go.
Like that?
Even higher.
Just a tidge higher.
A little bit higher.
296? 296? Oops. Is it?
No.
No, that's not it.
Do you remember
I
the
think it was
name?
page 292.
What's the title? Do you know the title, June?
Oh, can, go on and I'll go to my OCR and put it on. And then I can maybe see the page and the title.
What was it called? I Loved What I Could Love?
Right, right.
Okay, it was 292.
Oh, okay.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, and I cannot read it.
Okay. Jyoti, are you there? Would you like to read it?
Jyoti decided to just listen tonight. She's not
Oh,
feeling
okay.
all that well.
Oh, that's fine. Would anybody else like to read it? I'll read it if not, but
Thank you, Cindy.
okay, I'll read it. Okay. This is from, let's see, who is this from? I like to know. So I'm going to look backwards real quick. This one is from, Saint Teresa of Avila.
Yes.
I loved what I could love is the title. I had a natural passion for fine clothes, excellent food, and lively conversation about all manners that concern the heart still alive, and even a passion about my own looks. Vanities, they do not exist. Have you ever walked across a stream, stepping on the rocks so not to spoil a pair of shoes? All we can touch, swallow, or say aids in our crossing to God and helps unveil the soul. Life smooths us, rounds, perfects, as does the river the stone. And there is no place our beloved is not flowing through the current's force you may not always like. Our passions help to lift us. I loved what I could love until I held him, for then all things, every world disappeared. I think I should probably read that again.
Hey,
I
Cindy,
had, huh? Yes.
just to mention that towards the end it says, and there's no place our beloved is not flowing, though the current's force you may not always like. I think you said through, just so.
Oh, yeah, I'm kind of reading in the dark. It doesn't look like it, but I am. Thank you, Lori. Okay. Flowing. Oh, I said through instead of it's though.
think so.
Yeah, okay. I had a natural passion for fine clothes, excellent food, and lively conversation about all matters that concern the heart still alive, and even a passion about my own looks. Vanities, they do not exist. Have you ever walked across a stream, stepping on rocks so as not to spoil a pair of shoes? All we can touch, swallow, or say aids in our crossing to God and helps unveil the soul. Life smooths us, rounds, perfects, as does the river the stone, and there is no place our beloved is not flowing, though the current's force you may not always like. Our passions help to lift us. I loved what I could love until I held him, for then all things, every world disappeared.
The honesty and vulnerability of Saint Teresa of Avila is one of the reasons that she's just stolen this heart. I mean, she's just so real.
Well, at 95, I think that's what I'm striving for.
Mm. Mm.
To have all those worlds disappear.
Or to have your heart stolen. Or both.
Oh,
No, 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 no. Uh, well, the poem starts with passions that I have had. And it's not that I don't like to look nice or I don't like certain foods. But it's not important.
Mm. And once again, it's interesting that she contradicts the Old Testament. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity. Is it which is that Ezekiel? I can't remember which of the prophets that is.
Or in Proverbs, maybe? I don't know.
No, it's one of the prophets. There may be something like it in Proverbs also, but it's where that author came up with that title, Bonfire of the Vanities.
Yeah. That was such a good title for that book.
Yes, it was. Wolf, Tom Wolfe, I think his name was. Anyway, this she simply says there are no vanities. They're just things that we're doing as we learn.
It says to me, this poem, that all of these things, including our passions for certain things, that wear, the passion of which wears away and we get passion for other things, but that is all just leading, all of it is leading to this point where, when you have this experience, this oneness with the divine, that all those things disappear. But until they do, they're stepping stones. Our passions are learning how to be passionate about and connect and attend to and
There is a Rumi poem that kind of goes along the same thing on page 68. Says, Rumi, pay homage. If God said, Rumi, pay homage to everything that has helped you enter my arms, there would not be one experience of my life, not one thought, not one feeling, not any act I would not bow to.
Yes, that's one of my favorite of Rumi's poems in the book. Would you read it again, please? And it's bow
Bow.
down.
Okay. Rumi, pay homage. If God said, Rumi, pay homage to everything that has helped you enter my arms, there would not be one experience of my life, not one thought, not one feeling, not any act that I would not bow to.
And it seems to me you're right, Swam. He is pointing to exactly the same thing that St. Teresa is.
If you have this sort of feeling about the divine and about the experience of your life, you can have no regrets about your past. I mean, there's no, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I'd done this, because these poems to me are saying that every single thing is part of it to bring you, you can't say, well, that was a mistake or that was a bad thing. It's not that you can't learn from it, but it's all part of it. It's all necessary to get to the end.
That learn from it part, I think, is what it means, what she means when she says sometimes you might not like how the current flows.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But Swami Prabhavananda, who was my teacher, said that having achieved realization, one looks back and celebrates everything that ever happened to them. That's what he said.
Or even achieving a certain amount of wisdom and living long enough, I think.
Yeah, I love that line where it says, going back to St. Teresa, there is no place our beloved is not flowing. No place.
That
Well,
can
that
be hard. It's easy, and then it's hard if you start looking everywhere and all the nooks and crannies and all the dark corners
Mm-hmm.
but it's a good practice.
Even politics.
Even politics. Heidi, were you saying something?
I really wasn't. But I do have a poem when we're ready to move on to read. But
That
no,
would be good.
I just want to make sure we're through here. Okay, to go on. Okay. And this, I just opened the book up, I think yesterday, and this is what came. This is the poem that came. And let's see, it's Perfect Equanimity on page 166. And let's see who this is. So I don't know if this is a favorite or not. Hafiz, okay? And it's a rather long one, so here I go. Okay, perfect equanimity. Look how a mirror will reflect with perfect equanimity all actions before it. There is no act in this world that will ever cause the mirror to look away. There is no act in this world that will ever make the mirror say no. The mirror, like perfect love, will just keep giving of itself to all before it. How did the mirror ever get like that? So polite, so grand, so compassionate. It watched God. Yes, the mirror remembers the beloved, looking into itself as the beloved shaped existence's heart and the mirror's soul. My eye has the nature of God. Hafiz looks upon all with perfect equanimity, as do my words, dear. My poems will never tell you no, because the mirror is not like that. And if God ever hits you with a don't, he has his fingers crossed. He is just fibbing for your own good. Did you hear that okay?
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad you read that, Heidi. That is one of my favorite poems in the whole book.
Really?
And it speaks to exactly the same thing that the last two poems we've been reading say.
Yeah, I guess it does, doesn't it? But these poems, they all just have such depth to them, but they're just, there's a lightheartedness and a humor to them too. So
Yes.
I'm just getting to know a lot, you know, these saints and their work, and um, it's just so uplifting to me to learn about these people, you know, these saints.
Yes. Well, Hafiz, there's lots of humor in Hafiz. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I recognize that is one of his themes here too.
And Tukaram will just make you burst out laughing. And how did the mirror, which is of course the mirror of the heart as we understand it, how did it learn to be that way? Hafiz says it watched God.
Right. Watched God.
And then in a couple of lines later, he says something about his eye.
Yes, he says, my eye has the nature of God.
Right.
Hafiz looks upon all with perfect equanimity, as do my words, dear. My words will never tell you no, because the mirror is not like that. And if God ever hits you with a don't, he has his fingers crossed. He is just fibbing for your own good.
Which is that current flowing in a way that you don't like it.
Right.
Well, I've got one. This is from Thomas Aquinas, and I have my son and daughter-in-law are working for the Biden campaign, and so through them, I've emailed this to them with a note in the form of a tanka to Joe Biden, because it speaks to me of his spirit. This is from St. Thomas Aquinas. It's called Capax Universi. That's Latin, of course. And it's also the first line. Capax Universi. Capable of the universe are your arms when they move with love. And I know it is true that your feet are never more alive than when they are in defense of a good cause. I want to fund your efforts. Stay near beauty, for she will always strengthen you. She will bring your mouth close to hers and breathe, inspire you the way light does the fields. The earth inhales God. Why should we not do the same? This sacred flame we tend inside needs the chance, that's C-H-A-N-T-S. This sacred flame we tend inside needs the chants of every tongue, the communion, this sacred flame we tend inside needs the chants of every tongue, the communion of with all. As capable as God are we. That's St. Thomas Aquinas, and I'm sorry, I do not know the page. Oh, wait a minute. It says, at the bottom of the screen here, it says page 134. That's, whether that's accurate in terms of your book, I don't know.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, would you like me to read it again, or was once enough?
Please read again.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Capax Universi. Capax Universi. Capable of the universe are your arms when they move with love. And I know it is true that your feet are never more alive than when they are in defense of a good cause. I want to fund your efforts. Stay near beauty, for she will always strengthen you. She will bring your mouth close to hers and breathe, inspire you the way light does the fields. The earth inhales God. Why should we not do the same? This sacred flame we tend inside needs the chants of every tongue, the communion with all. As capable as God are we. I love the lines, your feet are never more alive than when they are in defense of a good cause. For those like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and people of that character, that really is a deep motivation for them, I feel. That they really do want the right thing to happen.
And I love the lines. The sacred flame we tend inside needs the chance of every tongue, the communion with all.
Yes. All of these saints, all of them, challenge us to see ourselves as much more, much larger than we tend to see ourselves. And it reminds me of some lines that were shared with me once by Jerry Brunner, Lori's husband. They're from William Blake. And he was writing to a friend who was deeply troubled, perplexed. And these are a couple of lines that were in the poem. We ought to think of ourselves as highly as immortals ought to think. We ought to think of ourselves as highly as immortals ought to think. Which leads us, St. Thomas Aquinas, to say, as capable as God are we. But as St. Teresa of Avila said, everything is a stepping stone. All of what seem like limitations are only ways of gaining more self-awareness. We've got a few minutes left. Anybody else have a poem they want to read or want read?
I've got a short one here
Thank you, Heidi.
that it's by Hafiz, and it's on 161. And it's called How Did the Rose? How did the rose ever open its heart and give to this world all of its beauty? It felt the encouragement of light against its being. Otherwise, we all remain too frightened.
Could you read it again, please? And this time a little louder, if you would, Heidi.
Sure.
It's just a little hard to hear some of the words.
I think it's my volume here, but How Did the Rose is the title. How did the rose ever open its heart and give to this world all of its beauty? It felt the encouragement of light against its being. Otherwise, we all remain too frightened.
Mm,
And when I first read this, I've only read it once prior, I felt like that someone just gave me a big hug.
ah,
It was just a beautiful poem, you know? I felt embraced in a warm hug.
how beautiful. Well, you know, Hafiz says that's what he wants to do with us. He wants to reach out across the illusion of time and space and actually embrace us, actually. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you had that feeling, Heidi. That's exactly what Hafiz
Yeah.
says he wants to do.
Because all the flowers, I mean, I just envisioned like a pink rose for some reason, just came to my mind when I read this. And just the beauty, aesthetically, the smell of the flower, you know, and just to open and share that, you know, and not to be afraid. And I guess with the encouragement of God or the divine or whatever you want to call it, we just all can open our heart and our spirit, you know, and bloom and blossom like a rose, and not be afraid to take those chances. You know, some of the things we talked about, stepping over those stones, things like that.
Hey, Cindy. Cindy, I'm reminded of flowers blooming without fear.
That came to my mind too, Lori. I was just about to quote those lines.
Okay.
I'm amazed year after year, flowers blooming without fear.
That's from one of Cindy's songs.
Okay. What a great title or lyric, yeah.
Yeah, you can find that poem, that song online if you go looking. It's called Love's Shining Peace. Love's Shining Peace. And there are recordings of it online. It's a beautiful song. And, you know, this, just what you read, Heidi, so reminds me of what I said, why I so adore Saint Teresa of Avila. She's absolutely fearless and spontaneous about being who she is, completely vulnerable, completely. And when she was doing that, it was dangerous. You know, there was something called the Inquisition.
Mhm.
She actually has a poem about meeting with an inquisitor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it in the book?
Yes, it is. And it's so beautiful how she, I wouldn't be able to find it quickly, but she talks about how she's called to have tea with someone who asks her very pointed questions. The inquisitor wants to know what she knows about the will of God.
I think I read that. Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's. And I'm going to paraphrase. I'm sure I'm not going to get the exact words right, but one of the last lines of the poem is, "You don't have to ask a wing what its purpose is."
That was, we actually did that one of these Monday nights recently.
Did we?
Yeah, clarity is freedom.
Ah,
The
that
last
was,
line, what is God's will for a wing? Every bird knows that. I think
Yes.
Jyoti read it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
yeah, oh, that was really good.
Well,
Yeah.
read
Read
the
it?
yeah, if you
I'll
would,
just read it.
and
Why not?
listen to this. I'm just inviting you to listen to this with the perspective that she's being invited to answer questions to someone who can judge her and put her in danger.
I didn't realize that was who she was talking to, but it makes sense. Okay. Um, I had tea. I had tea yesterday with a great theologian, and he asked me, "What is your experience of God's will?" I liked that question, for the distillation of thought hones thought in others. Clarity, I know, is freedom. What is my experience of God's will? Everyone is a traveler. Most all need lodging, food, and clothes. I let enter my mouth what will enrich me. I wear what will make my eye content. I sleep where I will wake with the strength to deeply love all my mind can hold. What is God's will for a wing? Every bird knows that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, it's 9 o'clock, dears. So, is there one more Monday in August?
Yes, the 31st.
Ah, it's the last day. Yeah, wonderful. Okay. So, see you next Monday. And we can decide at that time among ourselves whether we want to continue this on into the rest of the schedule. We certainly can, if those of us who are participating like it enough. And it's a big book, lots of poems.
and it's a lifeline.
Thank you, June. I think so too.
I think so too.
That's
And
wonderful.
thank you, Lori. Yes, it is a lifeline, June. It is a lifeline. These testimonies of the saints, this testimony of the saints
Yes,
is so enriching and encouraging and uplifting. That's exactly, I'm sure, what you meant by lifeline.
right.
And so, until next week, everyone, enjoy the rest of your August. And I'll just say Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. And what that means, it's a salutation to the divine being in its every aspect. That's the Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. And then Durga Durga Durga. Durga is the one who's responsible for sustaining and protecting us on our life's journey. It's a form of the Divine Mother who is, her particular responsibility is sustaining and protecting us on our life's journey. And then the clapping, Swami Prabhupada was asked, Swami, why the clapping? And he said, to get her attention, of course. So Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you be well. May you be cheerful during this dreadful time. Until next week, dears. Or sooner if any of you want to call or.
Bye.
Or
Hi, Kat.
bye,
Bye.
y'all.
See you all. Good to see everybody.
Bye.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you,
Good
Lori.
night.
Thank you, Lori. Bye. Bye,
See you,
everyone.
honey, June, and Pat, Chandra,
Bye.
Bye,
Josie.
Bye, Elizabeth. Bye-bye.
This
Good
is
night,
wonderful.
all.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night, Lori.
Bye.
Night, June.
Yeah.
Here we go.